So in this video, we're going to finish up the essay by looking at the conclusion, and we're going to start here by looking at the rubric and noticing that with the rubric, it's only worth 10%. So this is the smallest section of the three parts of the essay. And here we're looking at 100%, 90%, 80%. So with the 100% conclusion is very effective and gives readers a sense of closure. You end it so that you feel like everything was tied up, everything was wrapped up, everything was coming to an end. You don't feel like there's anything left untalked about or unsaid. Restates the thesis, gives creative personal opinion. Keyword here, creative. And such as a call for action or prediction. Minimum of 5 sentences. So let's get over and look at some examples. So before the examples, we're going to have to break down what the conclusion paragraph looks like. So let's start with the imagery. So the imagery is the opposite of the intro. Intro is a triangle with the pointing downwards. This is a triangle pointing upwards. And we can break this down into parts. And just like it's the opposite of the intro, we're going from specific to general. And we're specifically talking about the thesis. Restate, or I like to say reverse your thesis, change it up, make it differently, use synonyms. We're going to look at some examples in a second. Summarize your main points, give some advice, and make a prediction. So let's break that down. So we just have this pyramid broken up into sections. So we're going to start from the top and work our way down. So here we have reverse the thesis. Like I like to tell my students, say your thesis backwards. Use synonyms, different words, same meanings. Try to be creative. Use those all that vocabulary that you have in your head. Try to use more different words to say the same thing. Going down to the middle section of the intro, this is the and also at this part you should also be summarizing your main points. You're not giving new examples or anything. Just like for example, like usually the same points that you made in your topic sentences, you just re-say them here. And then we get down to the advice. Make sure your advice is connected to points that you made in your body paragraphs, and if you can, to the intro. So if you a really good conclusion will have some sort of connection to the intro. And with the advice, you should try to pick a specific group of people to advise, such as parents, and show how they can help. And we'll look at an example in a second. At the bottom of the conclusion, we predict the results of your advice, or the results if your advice is not taken. So here goes an example. So you should be able to pause the video for a second, and you should be able to find the synonyms. What is the group that we're giving advice to, and how are they going to make that advice, and what's the results? So pause the video and look for those things, and then push play once you've found that. Alright, so we're back, and here is the thesis for this conclusion. The major two causes of obesity in Kuwait is harsh weather and an oversupply of fast food restaurants. So like we said, let's first go to the synonyms, going to the top, restating the thesis. So as you saw, this one said the major two causes of obesity in Kuwait is harsh weather, and so they're going to reverse it or make it backwards. So in conclusion, this essay explained how an abundance of fast food restaurants and extreme weather. So it started from here and went backwards, right? So that's just another way to change it up in your essay. And then it also uses plenty of synonyms. You can push pause and read those if you want to. I'm going to move on. Next, we'll give advice. So you should have found who was a specific group that they gave advice to and what that group should do. So if you found that, good. This was also a way that it connected because it brought up education and awareness in the intro. So this was a way that it connected to the intro for this example. And then the specific group was the government. And what did they tell them to do, or how should they give the advice? To have education through flyers, commercials, and school programs. So that was what the group was, the government. They gave them specifically, you should do what? Do these things. So that's good advice. And then finally, results. So you should have found that this is saying that the country, this is like a prediction. If the country does do this, then it's going to be one of the healthiest countries in the world, etc., etc. So here's a student example, a pretty good one. So this one, the student, the essay was about reasons why children should play sports. And so they restate their thesis, they kind of summarize the main points here, and then they give their advice. And they're talking to parents, give their kids to play, and they give a few different types of advice. So I thought that was pretty good. They first say encourage them, so they're not scared, and then they say you should get them into different clubs or sport organizations, and then get them to support them. And then it also gives a prediction. So I thought this was a good example of a conclusion. Again, it shows, it gives the advice, and it shows them how to do it. So it's very specific. Very good job doing that. And that's it. So you're going to be expected to be able to do this. So let's get ready to practice.